Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 293 of the All Dolphins podcast. I am joined today by the one and only, the legendary, the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. Chris, how are you, my man? Long time no see.
Yeah. It's been, 30 minutes or something like that. I made the treacherous drive from Miami Gardens to North Bay Village, and man, it was pouring, absolutely pouring. But I'm here. I'm ready to talk some Dolphins, baby.
There you go. Okay, and we got a lot to talk about today. Was the first of 5 practices open to the media this offseason. 1 OTA this week, 1 OTA next week, and then the 3 mini camp practices, which will wrap up the offseason program June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And we will discuss everything that we saw, everything we heard before and after. So we got a lot to get to. However, I do not want to omit the history lesson because, again, we're getting to a good year, 1993, corresponding to episode 293, which was the year Don Shula became the winningest head coach in NFL history, with not his first string, not his second string, his third string quarterback finishing up the game, a gentleman who is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Doug Peterson. That was the season Dan Marino tore his Achilles in Week 5 at Cleveland, replaced by Scott Mitchell, who sustained a shoulder injury early in that November 14th, 1993 game at the old Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And Doug Peterson came in. The Dolphins, I believe, came back in a butt-ugly game, but won 19-14. It was beautiful. Lifted Don Shula on the shoulders, and he became the winningest coach in NFL history. Then the Dolphins went on to a couple more wins, defeated the Dallas Cowboys, your Dallas Cowboys, on Thanksgiving Day, 16-14. The Keith Byers, Snow Angel, Leon Lett mental blunder game. And at that time, the Dolphins had a 9-2 record, best record in the NFL. Steve DeBerg by that time was their quarterback. And then, as sadly has happened too many times in the past, 20, 30 years with the Dolphins, it collapsed. Dolphins wound up losing their last 5 games, finished 9-7, and missed the playoffs.
Yep.
So, were you in Dallas and Texas at the time, Perk, or were you in South Florida by then?
No, I was in Texas. I was covering the University of Texas. That night, I was at a UT at Texas A&M game because they used to always play on Thanksgiving night back in those days. I hate using that phrase, but that's where I was that day of the Leon Lett game.
Oh, nice. That's a nice twin bill there in Texas with the Cowboys. And they were doing that every year. That's right. Okay, so that takes care of our history lesson. We will fast forward to 2024 on this Tuesday, May 21st. Guess we should start with the Mike McDaniel presser before the OTA and what we observed. And I guess the news, like it or not, has to probably center around Tua, guess not being there, his contract status, Mike McDaniel being asked to confirm about Tua's absences in the offseason program. What did you make of the whole thing?
I make of it that I think that Tua is doing the right thing by missing some of the off-season voluntary workouts. Now, to be clear, OTA started yesterday on Monday. Today was the second OTA. Tua was there yesterday. He had an excused absence today. He was at a Nick Saban charity golf tournament. However, to me, when I look at everything that Tua has been through and been doing this off-season, I think that it's contract related. And what I mean is missing some of the voluntary off-season program workouts. We haven't seen that in the past. Working with his private quarterback coach this late into the offseason, John Beck, the former Dolphin. We have not seen that in the past. There was the report that Tua has turned down a contract offer from the Dolphins. So there are a lot of things, and the weight loss. Tua has lost like maybe 15 or 20 pounds, which we have all noticed, and which Tua did not address at the Tua Luau, or the Luau with Tua, whatever it was called. I think Luau with Tua. But anyway, Mike McDaniel kind of addressed it today and ended by saying he's svelte, which he kind of is svelte. But
when's the last time you heard an NFL coach use the word svelte?
Right. Exactly. This is probably the first and last. But when you look up all the different things that are going on in Tua world, I think that he is kind of taking charge where he says, I'm not going to show up to all these workouts. I am going to. The other thing, he kind of slightly changed or tweaked his throwing motion. I'm going to lose this weight. I'm going to continue to work with my private quarterback coach. And I like it when salty Tua shows up, when it's the Tua who says, screw the whole world. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm on the Dolphins side in this contract negotiation thing, but I think that Tua is way too often, way too nice. He needs to make a statement on this. Have a hold-in during training camp. Do something to show the Dolphins I'm serious about this, because I'm quite sure that the Dolphins are going to show Tua, or have showed Tua, that they're serious about this. So I like what we've seen from Tua this offseason.
So basically you're saying you're on the Dolphins side, but you want to see Tua get angry. So you want to see a fight, basically. You're one of those people. That's what you want to do.
I don't want to see a fight, but I wouldn't mind seeing some voices raised and some some fist shakes. I wouldn't mind that.
Here are a couple of points I want to make, though. And somebody else, Josh Moser, who was on yesterday, also brought up or I brought it up out of the blue, something, because a big deal was made of Tua rejecting a contract offer.
Mm-hmm.
Big whoop. It's like, how often in a negotiation like that does a player immediately accept the first offer that's thrown his way? Because generally speaking, the team's going to lowball the player. Player is going to ask for more. Team's going to come up, and then they go back and forth until they reach a satisfactory point, or meeting point, I should say. So to me, the fact that Tua rejected a contract offer, I think it makes for a nice headline. It doesn't mean very much in the grand scheme of things. Then the issue of Tua losing weight, and I don't understand why Tua wouldn't bring it up or refuse to comment on it at the luau, which certainly was a friendly place for him. It's not like, not that the media is ever adversarial with Tua, but talk about this is at his luau. And it semi raises a question, which may never be answered, of whether he gained weight on the direction of the Dolphins last year to help deal with the injuries. And to me, I've said before, I don't think it made a ton of difference, because the biggest issue in 2022 is the two major injuries he sustained is he got ragdolled by defensive linemen after getting caught in their clutches. Mm-hmm. Well, how often did he get caught in clutches of defensive linemen last year? I don't recall one. Yeah. So he avoided that. And even had he gotten caught, then the fact that he was heavier, he wasn't quite as easy to throw around as he was in 2022. And I think we can all agree that the weight gain, while making him sturdier, made him a lot slower too in and around the pocket. Agreed?
Yes. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know why, other than the fact that one of the two, either the gaining weight or the losing weight, wasn't entirely his call. Why wouldn't he want to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. That adds more mystery to the story than there should be. And look, and Poop, I agree with you that the contract, turning down the contract, not significant on its own. The weight loss, not significant on its own. But when you add all these things up, to me, it means something. I don't know exactly what it means, but it means something. There's been a whole lot of changes from his normal routine this year. And why? Why this year? Why now? What is it? What's the significance of it? You don't just make all these changes at once just because. It's either on-field something, off-field something, mechanical something. There's something there. I don't know if we'll ever learn what it is, but there's something there, I think.
To me, it's one of the two. It's what could be one of two factors, and I'm completely spitballing here. One of them is you're not gonna take me for granted, so I'm gonna show you that I can be salty, even if my words are not salty. I can be salty by my actions, which would be I'm gonna work with my own coach this late. I'm gonna miss some off-season workouts. I'm gonna change my throwing motion. I'm gonna lose a weight again if it wasn't sanctioned. Or at the direction of the Dolphins. Or it could be that, you want to play hardball with me and you may want to make me play in my fifth-year option. Well, guess what? I'm going to do what I want to do. Yeah. So it seems to be like whereas the first 2 years of the Mike McDaniel regime, It has been total cooperation, a completely cooperative effort between all parties involved, including Tua.
Yep.
This offseason is not quite the same.
I agree. And look, and here's another takeaway from Mike McDaniel today. He was very careful to mention he doesn't get into contract talks with Tua. That he said he's the coach and Tua is the player, and he kind of hinted that they leave their conversations to football things, on-field things, and the contract stuff is between Tua and the organization. I don't know how much I believe that. I think that I believe like 90% of it, maybe 95% of it, but I think that contract probably has to come up between them at some point. Not specific numbers, but I think, well, let me say that. I think McDaniel has a good feel on whether Tua is pissed off or not. Sure. I don't know whether Tua is pissed. I think Mike McDaniel knows and might know more than Chris Grier knows. I'll say that about what I think of the Tua Mike McDaniel relationship. I think Mike probably knows more than Chris Grier knows, but that Mike would not betray Tua. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, and I'm going to leave the Tua conversation because there are plenty of other things to talk about. There's not only one player on the Dolphin roster, even though sometimes it feels that way.
Thanks for saying that, Poop. That's much appreciated. I feel the same way.
Yes. The last point on this is if it was strictly him not being at every single solitary offseason program session, big whoop, because as we're going to mention, there were a lot of veteran players who weren't there. Hell, and Ndamukong Suh spent his offseason in Portland when he was with the Dolphins, and nobody blinked an eye. So it's the combination of all the factors that while it's not a reason to get concerned about things going south, again, are we really thinking Tua's going to hold out at any point? Seriously, that even if the Dolphins decide to completely play hardball, never give Tua and his representation the contract he wants, he's still under contract for 2023. For 2024. So right. I don't know. Mentioning, so there was no Tua. And by the way, we should mention it was Nick's kids. That was the event that he was taking part in. No Tyreek Hill, no Jalen Waddle, no Raheem Mostert, no Teron Armstead, no Jalen Ramsey, no Kendall Fuller, no Shaq Barrett. Getting exhausted. No, it doesn't take much. Hold on. Who am I missing? No Jonnu Smith. Am I missing anybody? It sounds about right.
Austin Jackson?
No, he was there.
He was there. Yeah, he was there. Right. Liam. Yeah. Who else? I think that's probably it. I'm trying to go over all the starters. I think that's probably the significant players.
Yeah. So again, and we're talking about a practice in May, so it's not a big deal. As expected, Bradley Chubb didn't participate. Was there though, and those are the guys who were there did not participate. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips.
Oh, Cam Smith and Chop Robinson.
I wasn't done yet.
Oh, I did. I jumped the gun.
Right. Cameron Good, Aaron Brewer, Aaron Brewer.
Aaron Brewer. It's
spelled
Aaron, pronounced
Aaron.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. You're going to get me to say that in front of him. Aaron.
Okay. And his wife, Jacqueline. No.
Yeah. Right. Don't put this in my head. Okay. It's going to be an embarrassing incident for me one day.
That would be bad. And who else am I missing? Who did not participate? Those are the main guys. Wasn't crazy about the way Jalen Phillips was walking, if we're going to be very honest about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would agree. I thought Chubb had a more encouraging walk than Jalen Phillips did. Look, and we're still months away, so nobody needs to get excited. We're just making observations right now.
Which is part of our job. We're reporting because we're reporters.
Right.
Right?
Well said.
How about that? We're journalizing because we're journalists.
That's it. There you go.
Now, in the action we saw, okay, let's start with the quarterbacks. Anything jump out at you?
No, I didn't think anybody threw particularly well or threw particularly poorly. So I thought, the quarterback stuff was, I didn't see any noticeable mental errors where the guy missed an open receiver and the quarterback's coach or the offensive coordinator pulled him to the side. So I think things ran as smoothly as could be expected from the quarterbacks of Mike White, Skylar Thompson, and Gavin Hardison, the undrafted rookie from UTEP, Texas El Paso.
First, I think it was the first or second pass he threw in. It was either 9-on-7 or a 7-on-7. Hardison threw a pass over the middle, and man, that ball jumped out of his hand. It was like, and this is a guy with a reputation for ridiculous arm, but he does spray the ball a little bit. We're going to be honest. On that one particular throw, it was like, man, that ball came out. And that one particular throw also was a beautiful completion over the middle, tight coverage to tight end Jody Fortson, who, if I had to say one guy who really impressed the hell out of me today, it was Jody Fortson. He's a guy I didn't know much about. I checked out with my buddy in Kansas City, our friend Joshua Briscoe, who, friend of the program, appeared last year on Behind Enemy Lines, and he told me the guy has very good potential. Injuries have been the problem, and he had 3 catches to my count, and he's a big dude who moves well and looks very fluid and smooth. I'd say this is a guy I'm going to keep my eye on.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good today. The tight end group is going to be very interesting, isn't it? Because I thought Julian Hill looked pretty good today. Also, he flashed a couple of times, and so when you have a group that's Durham Smythe, who had the career best 35 receptions last year, if I'm not mistaken, and then you have Jonnu Smith, who had a career best 50 receptions in Atlanta. And then you have Julian Hill, the undrafted rookie, who showed some promise. Like you say, Jody Fortson looked athletic today. He really did. So we'll see what they've done to this position. Again, today, not pads, not going against first teamers, but you got to start somewhere. It's better that Fortson looked good today than look bad. So thumbs up to Jody Fortson for today. I agree with you, Poop.
Perk, that's some wise observation right there. Better that he look good than he look bad. No, and he was like a really big dude, tall. I mean, I don't know what he's listed. He looked at me like 6'5", 6'6", and he can move. And you mentioned Julian Hill. I don't know if you noticed, but that dude bulked up since the end of last season. And he wasn't small to begin with, but he was like big today.
Yeah, no. When he was carrying the ball, one of the first things I noticed was his bicep, actually, and it was like, wow, this dude, Julian Hill, has put on some pounds, man. He looked good, basically. Yeah.
Trying to think of what else, and again, this is what we saw. Was there some 11-on-11 work? It's no contact, which is not permitted. No live contact permitted. So there was some 11-on-11 work, not a ton. Some 9-on-7, some 7-on-7. So.
I couldn't tell much about the running backs, and I'll say this since it was written, we did see Jalen Wright lose his lunch at one point out there on the field today. But what I thought was interesting, he was wearing a helmet cam. He was the only non-quarterback that I observed wearing a helmet cam. I don't know what the purpose was of that, how much of the losing his lunch the helmet cam captured. But can
you imagine the video?
Hey, he had the helmet on at that time. It had to be captured. I mean, come on. But yeah, so I really couldn't tell. Savon Ahmed was not out there also today. I couldn't tell much about the running backs, but that's another position where, right, they have some depth there among Mostert and Devon Achane and now Jalen Wright and Savon Ahmed. We saw Alec Ingold out there. But without pads, he looked like his normal good self, Pro Bowl self. But yeah, you couldn't really block anybody. But I couldn't really tell much about the running backs. Jalen Wright, we know he's got speed, but I don't know if I really saw it today. I'm confident that we will see it, though, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I didn't see Chris Brooks either.
Right.
My first impression of Jalen Wright was he's kind of small. He looked smallish to me, and then I know he's not a big dude, but he looked. I don't know if it was in relation to the defenders he was going against or when he was running behind offensive linemen. It seemed to me he was smallish than the impression I got when we talked to him at the podium before the rookie minicamp. So what that means, I don't know. And I'm going to be very careful about what I say about him because last year, myself and Omar on this podcast took a lot of crap for saying, and please back me up on this, for saying during training camp that it was very hard to differentiate between Devon Achane and Savon Ahmed.
Yes, it was mostly the shoes. I told Ahmed that, and he laughed. I was like, dude, I loved it when you wore those orange fluorescent shoes because I could tell the difference between you and Achane. And he laughed at that. But they were both fast, similar body types. I'll say this, and I don't know if I said this about Jalen Wright on this show or another one. He is smallish, but I think that he's more Lamar Miller than Devon Achane. I think he's got a little more bulk, a little more meat on his bones than Devon Achane. They might all be the same height, Jalen Wright, Devon Achane, and Lamar Miller. But to me, from seeing clips and things, I think that Wright is more on the Lamar Miller, a little thicker, a little bulkier side than the Devon Achane side.
See, and to me, I saw it the other way today. See how that goes?
Yeah.
We can't agree on anything. You're wrong, Perk. I'm right. You're wrong.
All right, this is my last show, dude.
That's how we roll here.
That's
what happened to Omar, by the way. We disagreed.
That's right. And he thought he was right. He's off the show. Right.
There you go. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else from the practice stand out? I'm trying to think here.
Yes, I just was surprised that Chop Robinson and Cam Smith were not out there. They were working on the side. We saw them with Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. We have no idea what it means. Zero idea what it means. Just an observation that the top pick from the last two drafts, Cam Smith and Chop Robinson, neither was working today. Voluntary workouts, no pads, not a big deal, just something worth noting.
No, and in the case of Cam Smith, considering what a waste his rookie season was, you hate to see him miss any kind of opportunity, even if we're talking May. I mean, this is a guy you want to see like incremental progress, no matter how small, but continually moving forward. And then get to see that. Oh, one more observation before we get to what we heard after practice. Yeah. And you and I both talked about this, is Mo Kamara on the lower body. That dude is thick. I mean, big.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, look, big butt, big thighs, big calves. I mean, his lower body it just makes you think, wow. Now here's the first step and all of that kind of stuff. You see how this stuff is possible, and you knew it was possible anyway. We saw a video of them. But it's always amazing seeing these guys out of pads and then in pads. And we talk about Chop Robinson. When we saw him over there with the other edge rushers, he was smaller than Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, but I thought upper body, I thought he was good size. I thought he was probably as big as say Cam Good, maybe bigger, shoulders and chest. And Cam Good is not a big guy, and again, size is not Chop Robinson's thing. It's getting after the quarterback. Cam Wake was not a big guy. But I thought Chop was, when you talk about physical, how they look, he's not a bigger edge rusher, but chest and shoulders, I think he's what you want. He's there in that area.
Yeah, and the last one on Kamara is because we saw him in the rookie minicamp, and they were in shorts, and it was like, yeah, I mean, he's put together, he's solid. I mean, he's 6'1", 260, whatever. But then you put him like he was wearing the football pants, and it's like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, so after practice, we got the chance to chat with a group of players, including Erica Zukama, Jordan Poyer, Javon Holland, Braxton Berrios, and Jordan Brooks. I think the Javon Holland comments probably are the ones that would stand out, including his contract, and then including his at Vic Fangio without ever mentioning the guy's name.
Man, it's the Fangio stuff. Boy, I'll tell. Well, look, we could. What do you want to go contract or Fangio first? I thought he was very mature about the contract, Javon Holland.
Yes.
The funny comment was when he said, if they haven't taken care of Tua, well, I don't expect them to take care of me because I'm not more important than Tua. That's paraphrasing. What did you think about his contract attitude? I thought it was pretty healthy and insightful and enlightened. Mature.
No, it was great. It was great. And full disclosure, I got there because, again, the guys are talking at the same time, so you have to kind of pick and choose. I was talking to Izukama because I'm very interested in the story, the human story there, where had a big neck injury last year that sidelined him for pretty much the entire season. I asked him if there ever was a point where he thought maybe this could affect, long-term your NFL career, and he said that there was. But they late in the season, he got cleared by doctors, and then big weight off his shoulder, and now this is a very confident dude, by the way. And then I moseyed on over to Javon Holland and missed the beginning, and then when I asked him, and I said, and apologizing if he had already been asked, because you hate to do that, but unfortunately, sometimes when you go from table to table, I didn't want to take the chance that it had not been asked. And he's like, I mean, to me, it was a great answer because he didn't play dumb and go, no, I'm not worried about that. I mean, he admitted, yeah, I want to get paid. I want a new contract and all that. But that's why I have an agent. He's going to do what he's going to do. And I'm going to do what I'm going to do, which is focus on playing football. And hopefully they pay me sooner rather than later. But, whatever will be, will be. So, no, that was very good. That was perfect because it wasn't boring, bland, template type stuff, while at the same time saying the right things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it was honest. It was honest. That's the thing, that guys want to get paid. There's nothing wrong with saying I want to get paid. The team knows I want to get paid. And so you respect the guy for his honesty in that situation, while not being, crazy or over the top or nothing that the team is going to get pissed at him for, or his agent or anything like that. He was just honest about the situation. You appreciate that.
No, correct. Just like, to me, one of my dreams is to get a player, when we ask him why he signed with the Dolphins, to come on and say, well, because they offered me the most money. I would love that. I mean, I would be like, bravo for the honesty,
Exactly.
And while it's not the only factor, if anybody out here is kidding themselves into thinking that it's not the number one factor 95% of the time, sorry, got news for you. Sorry, it's mostly the factor. Okay, now we got to discuss the other one, the Fangio in the room. It was basically, the question was asked about what difference, or no, hold on. It was basically how he likes playing for Anthony Weaver, and then Javon Holland is full of praise. He's an awesome, great dude and all that. And then our buddy Omar asked him, is it because it make a difference, the fact that he was once in your shoes as a former player? And then without hesitation, Holland just said, he's a good person. That makes a difference. And if you don't think that's like at Vic Fangio, right?
Oh, well, look, there's a lot to unpack here. So look, let's start with this. I like and respect the job that Vic Fangio did last year. Number 10 defense. You had no Jalen Ramsey for the first 7 games. Those last few games, 4 games, whatever. No Jalen Phillips, no Bradley Chubb. Van Ginkel gone, Jerome Baker gone, Javon Holland's knees are bothering him. X is bothered, his lower body is bothering him. So to finish number 10 is a great accomplishment for Vic Fangio. Having said that, with what Javon Holland said, Poop, I wonder, is he speaking for Javon Holland? Is he speaking for 8 of the starters? Is he speaking for the whole defense? Like, how many people felt this way? Did Mike McDaniel know this? When did Mike McDaniel know this? Was it Thanksgiving? Was it September? And is this why Vic Fangio, that decision was reached fairly quickly, right? That Vic Fangio is not coming back. When was that decision?
Hold on, but it was a 2-part thing.
Philadelphia.
Well, correct. And Vic Fangio basically confirmed in that introductory press conference 3 months after he was officially hired, that basically, had the timing worked out right, he would have joined the Eagles last year. Basically, what happened, if you put the pieces together, is Fangio committed to the Dolphins, and then boom, Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles DC, takes a job in Arizona, and Fangio's like, I'm already committed to the Dolphins. Yep. My dream job's right there, committed to the Dolphins. So that was one part of it. The other part of it is he was very clearly that there were a certain number of players, don't know exactly how many, did not like Vic Fangio. And his approach was basically, I've done this a long time. We're going to do it my way. I appreciate your desire to have input, but I'm not interested in it. In so many words. And you mentioned they finished 10th. They were 4th heading into the Baltimore game. 2 weeks left.
Yeah.
Without Ramsey for the first 7 games. So whatever you want to say about him, the dude knows what he's doing. He may not know how to relate to players, to today's players, but he knows what he's doing.
Right.
So I don't know if you're Mike McDaniel and you have a defense that's 4th in the NFL through 16 weeks. Are you going to tell Fangio to change his ways because players don't necessarily like it when you have the results are really, really good?
Yeah, that's interesting. I would really like to know. Now we have to get Mike McDaniel's thoughts on what Jevon Holland said and kind of probe into that situation a little longer because, look, we know that this is the Dolphins. This is Mike McDaniel's 3rd defensive coordinator in 3 years. If the Dolphins have success this year, there's a good chance Anthony Weaver gets a head coaching job. He's already interviewed twice. So they could be looking at another defensive coordinator next season. Does Mike McDaniel know what he's looking for in a defensive coordinator? When you consider, if I'm not mistaken, Poop, he wanted Fangio for the seat, right? And it turned out to be a disaster from a player standpoint, if you listen to Jevon Holland. So does McDaniel know what he wants in a defensive coordinator? Can he pick the guy for strategic purposes and for personal player relation purposes? Does one really outshine the other? Would Vic Fangio be back if the Philadelphia situation didn't unfold the way it did, knowing how the players feel about him? There's so much more to what Jevon Holland said than what he actually said, which was stunning. But now you have to wonder, where did that come from? What did McDaniel know? All of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If the Dolphins really wanted Fangio back this year, he still was under contract until they quote unquote mutually agreed to part ways. So it's basically, it was one of those where I think the Dolphins knew that Fangio wanted to leave and they weren't necessarily interested in keeping him. A, if he doesn't want to stay, and B, considering the fact that half the defensive starters don't like it. But ideally you strike the balance of having a guy who relates very well to all his players and who's also schematically very good.
Yeah, and that's what they've got in Mike McDaniel, right? Seems to be what they've got in Frank Smith and a lot of the other coaches on the staff. For whatever reason, they haven't hit that with the defensive coordinator. So we'll see where they go, this year with the relationship with Anthony Weaver and how he uses the players. And if the players like how they're used, we've already heard that Jalen Ramsey is a chess piece, and we think that he will be used as a chess piece, which I would think would earn Anthony Weaver favor with Jalen Ramsey and other players on the defense, because maybe the other players see, all right, now we're maximizing our talent. We're doing the absolute best that we can. It's all a bunch of interesting little things that Jevon Holland has kind of opened up this box. It was kind of cracked open a little bit because we knew how the players felt about Vic, right, with Cam Smith's tweet and Jevon Holland's kick rocks tweet. But what Jevon said today kind of took a crowbar to that box, to that Pandora's box, and really opened it up.
No, and again, we won't know by all accounts, and we won't know exactly how good of a hire Anthony Weaver was until we have some body of work. Mm-hmm. We're in May. If anybody were to say, I'm not sure about him, we'd have a major issue. So anytime anybody's going to ask about Anthony Weaver, asking the players, they're going to love him. First of all, it's in May, and then what else are they going to say? So, and the truth is we don't have any sort of precedent on what kind of DC he can be, because he's held that title for 1 year.
Right.
In 2020 with Houston, when they were ravaged by injuries, and their season went south.
COVID year.
Correct. In the COVID year as well. We don't know. I mean, we certainly hope, and the fact that he's so highly respected around the league to get head coaching interviews brings you reason for optimism. But the truth is, we don't know.
We don't. Well, I'll say this. I would guess that he might be, and we'll see in minicamp. You remember last year when we asked about Vic Fangio, there were a lot of twisted up faces. He's an old man, and he's got his ways, and there weren't a whole lot of ringing endorsements like we're hearing for Weaver right now. It was kind of like, Vic is a funny guy. Oh, he's an old man. Oh, he's got his ways. There weren't a whole lot of right off the bat, the way I recall it, ringing endorsements for Vic. So
at least,
from that standpoint, Weaver's off to a better start.
I was going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to. We like doing this here. I was going to say, you just gave me an assignment here. I'm going to go back and look at those quotes, those Fangio-related quotes from this time last year, see what they were saying. Because I'm trying to say, I think it was always kind of a smirk from each of the players, like he's a different dude and all that. But I think I recall it was complimentary in most ways. So wouldn't want to miss less as we wrap up a couple of newsy items. Kader Kohu, for those wondering, was the one wearing the orange jersey on Tuesday, representative of his good work at practice on Monday. And as Mike McDaniel explained once again, it's not strictly about who made the most plays in practice. It's about best fulfilling the vision the Dolphins had for that particular day or for that particular period of time. That's how David Long Jr. got it basically for phase 2 of the offseason program. And then interesting twist with the joint practices. Dolphins are going to have 4, which, by the way, is the most you can have per the CBA, but there's no rule on how you spread them out. Dolphins have always done 2 practices each against 2 teams every summer for the past 3 summers. This year, they were doing 2 against Atlanta, 1 against Washington, 1 against Tampa Bay. So, which means, I don't know what it means.
Well, let me ask you this, Poop. Do you think, it's very early again. The key guys not being there today and doing the joint practices, do you think that this is a glimpse of a change of strategy in an attempt to keep players healthy in December and January? I'm wondering how hard, with the joint practices, I'm wondering how hard a lot of the starters are going to go in the non-joint practice training camps, and how much Mike McDaniel will have somebody like Teron Armstead is a different case. But let's say Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, how much are they going to be doing day-to-day in a daily training camp practice as opposed to what they've done in previous years? Are the joint practices going to be where they get most of their work? And if so, is this an effort to preserve everybody for December and January? I don't know. That's just kind of, I know it's very early, and I don't know that May is going to help you in December or January, but it's something that I've wondered if training camp, if that philosophy will carry in training camp, that you try to preserve guys, take snaps off of their bodies.
I think maybe you load manage certain guys, but I don't think you can do the whole team because you still have to get ready for the season. And I think this whole notion, I do think like Mike McDaniel last year kind of did his best to try to minimize risk in getting players back too early. Right. But there's only certain, I mean, if you look at the injuries that befell them down the stretch, how many of those were wear and tear injuries that could have been avoided, let's say, with a lighter workload in August? I don't know. I mean, Tyreek had the dude from Tennessee roll up his ankle from behind. Yep. Raheem was another weird tackle from behind where he got his leg twisted. Phillips pops an Achilles. Chubb pops an ACL. Van Ginkel, I don't even remember what his injury was exactly. X has got like a nasty foot injury. I think
Jerome Baker was friendly fire. Javon Holland was freakish.
Correct. So I don't know that I think you can overdo that. And this notion of saving players for December, I don't buy that. I buy the idea of erring on the side of caution if there's a greater risk of re-injury if you get the guy in as opposed to letting him sit a week. But I think McDaniel's done that before anyway. I don't know the benefit of doing 2 1-1 with the joint practices as opposed to 2 and 2. I don't know. From a selfish standpoint, it's 1 day in Tampa instead of 2, or 1 practice in Tampa instead of 2.
Yeah, at the very least, there seem to be some structural changes in training camp that we'll ask them what the reason is, and see if there's maybe an early season benefit. Although they start off great early in the season, early season isn't their issue. So, but it is interesting that they're changing things up, and we'll ask them why, and we'll see what the benefit is and how he arrived at that decision.
Yeah, and I don't know in the grand scheme of things if it really makes a difference if it gone, let's say, 2 against Atlanta and then 2 against Washington or Tampa Bay at the end and skip the other one. I think he kind of addressed it today. Maybe he wants to say as many different teams as possible, but who knows? Again, this is down the road. That's in August. We're in May. We do not see the Dolphins again until next week. We're going to have our second of 2 OTA viewings. And then there'll be the Joe minicamp, and then we'll be done. So that's going to wrap it up. On that note, I'm going to thank you again, Perk. And I hope you were joking about not ever coming back on the show again. That would make sense.
No, I was serious.
Oh, boo.
No, I'll be back. I'll definitely 100% be back. Okay. That might be disappointing to some of the viewers, but I will 100% be back.
Some of the viewers are disappointed I'm coming back all the time.
That's right.
But such is life in the big city. On that note, we kid. Be on the lookout for a alert for a live show on Wednesday. I'm going to do a live episode on Wednesday, thinking 7 p.m. Be on the lookout for an alert for the precise time. Until then, thanks for watching. Again, please subscribe, like, share, download, all that good stuff that you do that to help me out. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.